Changing the 14th Amendment would take years and years, the long, drawn-out process. A lot of people think that it is absolutely, in terms of anchor babies, that it is not covered. So we're going to find out.
What we ought to do is protect the 14th. You want to get to the policy for a second? I think that people born in this country ought to be American citizens.
It is in our Constitution. It has been in our Constitution for a very long time. And actually, it would take a constitutional amendment to change it.
If they came over here and did that, we can still keep them together by packaging them up and sending them back.
Anchor babies. I guess we're not supposed to use that term anymore, anchor babies. But what to do about illegal immigrants crossing the border to have a baby here, often with no intention of making this their permanent, secure home. But the baby becomes a U.S. citizen, with some actually interpreting the 14th Amendment as our founders intending to reward that family and extended family for cutting in line, for not following the rule of law to become legal U.S. citizens. Joining me now, Milwaukee County Sheriff, heck, America's Sheriff, David Clarke, and he's going to be talking to us, hopefully here, about the Second Amendment and the 14th Amendment, those anchor babies. Sheriff Clarke, thanks so much for taking time out of your day.
Governor, it is an extreme pleasure. You know this, and I don't speak in hyperbole, to hear from you. You are without peer when it comes to a message of freedom and liberty in the United States of America. Look, we're a hot mess right now. We've been led astray by the Obama administration, and we don't hear a consistent, coherent message of the Constitution, the rule of law, freedom and liberty like you articulated. So it's just good to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, sir, and that is mutual. Tell us your opinion, open borders. How do they affect a U.S. citizen's safety? That's what you're in the business of, making sure people are safe. What do U.S. borders, open or closed, have to do with the issue?
Well, as you know, there's a lot of moving parts here. I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I know how to read, and I read the Constitution at least once a year in its entirety. It doesn't take that long. And I always encourage others to do it as well so that we don't forget about it. And it makes it very clear in Article 1, Section 8. I'll read from it. It says, only Congress has the power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization, and that's what we're talking about here. First of all, we've been granting birthright citizenship to babies born in the United States of illegal aliens, and shame on us because, as you know, there is no constitutional or legal claim to that citizenship. Not only do I believe that, but people smarter than me, and a gentleman smarter than me that you might know, Mark Levin, says it as well. I know this 1896 or 1898 Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, it makes it clear. This thing has been misinterpreted, but it makes it clear that birthright citizenship applies only to parents legally in the country. So anyone who claims that it applies to any baby born in the U.S. is without question wrong on this. Now, for me, as a law enforcement officer, 38-year career, there are three issues surrounding the border protection here. First, it's a national security issue because, as you know, terrorists can easily get into and around the country. It happened post or pre-9/11, where the terrorists got in. They were on State Department lists. They had their visas suspended or revoked. They were on no-fly lists, but because we didn't protect our borders, they were able to easily fly in to the United States and perpetrate 9/11. There's also public safety issues where people with criminal histories are coming into the U.S. and they're continuing their criminal ways. We've heard time after time, I've heard anywhere up to 350,000 illegal immigrants in the United States that have been convicted of crimes that have been allowed to, after release, continue to stay in the United States. I mean, this is a shame. The Kate Steinle situation was maybe the marquee. It had the one that with the most publicity on it, but this goes on time and time again. The other issue, and this one never gets talked about, there's a public health implication where we need to prevent the spread of infectious diseases, communicable diseases, into the United States population, and all I need to do is bring up the Ebola scare. Okay, so the United States has an interest, national security, public safety, and public health, to secure that border. Now, what does it mean to secure the border? I like what Donald Trump says. It's unambiguous and it's clear. Build a wall. Forget about all of this technology and we only have to do part of it and some barbed wire. No. Build a wall. Why? Because walls are effective. So if we start with building a wall, deport all criminal illegal aliens, not just those convicted of violent felonies like we currently do. That's the kind of the standard. Well, it has to be a crime of violence. No. That includes misdemeanors and even local ordinances. Governor, it is not asking too much of people here illegally to obey all of our laws. Here's what else I think we need to do. Punish sanctuary cities that harbor illegal aliens. How do you do that? You hit them by withholding federal funding. Also, and here's a point that doesn't get mentioned either in terms of a model. You know, people say, well, comprehensive immigration reform. I don't even know what that means, but I'm explaining it, you know, as I see it. And here's a very important part as well. Deputize all local law enforcement officers with federal immigration enforcement authority to better assist the federal agents. Local law enforcement comes into contact more often for these illegal immigrants than federal agents do. So we should be a partner, but currently we don't have federal jurisdiction to enforce immigration.
Well, see, it's via your 38-year career, your expertise, and your common sense that does make you a constitutional scholar. You do know that 14th Amendment. You also know the Second Amendment, and you are expert at that, and you think practically about it. There is always talk of more gun control that only hampers the good guys' ability to assist you by protecting ourselves. What are you hearing out there? Proposals for more infringements coming down the pike, and how is it that we can protect our Second Amendment, making sure that we have that constitutional right to bear arms, that it not be stripped by the naive, the gullible, the tyrants?
Well, first of all, the only gun control I support is trigger control, and get that front sight back on the target after you pull the trigger the first time. And you know yourself, especially with a handgun, get that front sight back on the target. To me, that's gun control. That's the only effective gun control that we're ever going to have in the United States. But as it relates to the Second Amendment, that is the most sacred amendment in the Bill of Rights. Why? Because it protects the others. It protects our First Amendment freedom, our Fourth Amendment freedom, that prohibits illegal searches by government. It is about the Bill of Rights were about controlling the federal government. It was not about controlling us, but over time, as you know, this thing has been flipped upside down. The world is upside down right now, and now it's us fighting for our freedoms and liberties instead of the being able to keep the government at bay. So here's what people need to do. First of all, guard that thing with your life, okay? There are public safety implications, again, as it relates to the Second Amendment. I am through in Milwaukee County asking my law-abiding residents to outsource their personal safety to the government. Forget about it. It doesn't work anymore. People are waiting longer and longer for police response. And this is no knock on the first responders, but they're overwhelmed right now. They're under-resourced. The 911 system is flooded, and it's taking longer and longer to get to some very serious calls for service. So I've been telling and communicating in my county, reminding people that you are the first line of defense in your personal safety. So it's really about messaging again, but as it relates to that Second Amendment, it's about government tyranny, it's about public safety, and also it's about the shooting sports, okay? And as long as, and the Obama administration understands this, better than anybody, I think, in terms of the gun control issue. That as long as that Second Amendment there, it's going to keep him and his dictatorial ways in check.
Wow, Sheriff Clarke, thank you. Keep being bold. Keep giving us the information. Stay safe, sir. We need you out there. Thank you so much. Up next.